Welcome back. So, thanks Mayank for that example, befitting. So, okay. So we actually reached up to here. Characteristic solidification. We saw that P3 is bringing P2, again P2 is bringing P1, and P1 is bringing P3. But here we see the two-headed arrows. P3, P2 is bringing P2, P1 also. Similarly, P1, P2 is bringing P1, P2 also. P1 is also coming back to P2. There is a confusion. That is why this sustains. Like the question is that this particular conflicting order, why at all it sustains? So the sustenance is actually because of a confusion. Because of a confusion. Now, two-headed arrows are here in this particular image. It is separated. You see, for every connection, there are two arrows. For example, if we just look at P3, P2, there is an arrow coming from P3 to P1, P2, and again there is an arrow going from P2 to P3, and which actually makes the flux. Similarly, there is an arrow as an obsessive action, P2 to P1. It's going, but there is a natural flow also. It is coming as if from P1 to P2. P1 to P2. Now we'll take that cake example and we'll just translate this. Similarly, here in the connection of action and perception, there is a conflicting order P1 to P3, but there is a natural order, looking like natural order. There is something coming from P3 to P1. That is why the flux is continued. Flux means repetition of the same flow. भंवर हिंदी में बोलते हैं, चक्रव्यूह. तो यहां एक चक्रव्यूह बन रहा है, यहां एक चक्रव्यूह बन रहा है, यहां एक चक्रव्यूह. ये चक्रव्यूह आखिरकार बन क्यों रहा है? बन रहा है ये नेचुरल ऑर्डर का जो मॉर्फिंग हो रहा है ना, उस वजह से. ये क्या लग रहा है? जिस सेंसेशन के वजह से एक परसेप्शन आ रहा है. यहां पर ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे ही आपको सेंसेशन आया, सेंसेशन का ये नेचुरल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है, वो एक परसेप्शन लाएगा. बट वो परसेप्शन एक्चुअली इज नथिंग बट अ जस्टिफिकेशन है. वो सिर्फ इस सेंसेशन जो पैदा हुआ है उसको जस्टिफाई कर रहा, और कुछ नहीं कर रहा. कोई एक्चुअल अवेयरनेस ला ही नहीं रहा है. ये जो 2 नंबर का एरो है, ये नथिंग बट 5 नंबर का ही एरो है. जो 5 नंबर का एरो क्या है? जस्टिफिकेशन. रिमेंबर, जस्टिफिकेशन, एक्सक्यूज, जो प्राइड और रिमोर्स देता है. एक्शन के बाद जो आता है वो है P1 टू P3. तो ये जो लग रहा है, जो P2 से P3 आ रहा है, वो एक्चुअली P2 से P3 आ ही नहीं रहा है. वो जस्टिफिकेशन के तौर पे आ रहा है. वो सिर्फ उस सेंसेशन को जस्टिफाई कर रहा है, कुछ समझ लेके आ ही नहीं रहा है. नॉर्मली नेचुरली क्या होता है, जब आपने आग टच किया, व्हेन यू टच फायर you get the sensation, and with that sensation you have an understanding, that is P3 coming from P2. It's a natural flow. Now here in this case what happens, आपको वो दिमाग में केक वाला फोटो आया और आपके लार टपक गए, you salivate. Now because of the salivation आपको लगा जी नहीं, मुझे तो फिर जाना ही चाहिए यार, लाला या खाने का इच्छा आ गया है मुझे. तो ये जो जस्टिफाई कर रहे हैं, जस्टिफिकेशन इज quite similar to P1, P3 connection. So there is a confusion between the number 2 arrow and number 5 arrow. Similarly, ये number 4 arrow जो आपको दिख रहा है, which is P1 to P2, ये लगता है एक्शन के वजह से सेंसेशन आ रहा है, बट ये बेसिकली ये पहला वाला एरो का ही रूप है जो एक्शन के वजह से आ ही नहीं रहा है, क्योंकि आप जाके वो केक खाए हो, वो एक इन्फ्लुएंस्ड एक्शन था. वो इन्फ्लुएंस्ड एक्शन एक जेन्युइन एक्शन है ही नहीं, वो एक आइडिया ही है, एक्शन जैसा दिख रहा है. तो वो एक्चुअली आइडिया से आता हुआ सेंसेशन ही बनता है. आपको लगता है जो मैंने काम किया उसको सेटिस्फेक्शन मिला, बट आप आइडिया से ही अफेक्टेड हो. सो ये 4 equals to 1. So don't try to note it down or don't put an effort to yourself, because this particular slide or the complete presentation will be shared with you. So you can refer and assimilate this also in understanding, so that tomorrow you can bring your concern also about it. Yeah, Mayank, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm saying you said that 4 is equal to 1.
Yes.
So because now I am eating the cake, so
Yes.
it will create more sensation, right?
But what you are eating? You are eating an idea.
But
So-
no, I am eating an idea till the I have a psychological perception. But once I eat the actual cake,
That actual cake is actually an idea. Otherwise, you will not be able to eat cake. The cake that we are eating, that's one thing that we need to understand here. The cake, the ingredients of the cakes are not edible at all. Those are not edible. What is edible is the idea behind that particular mixing. So what we are consuming is not the ingredient, because ingredients are not designed to consume. We will not be able to consume it. Yes, Alex, you want to say something?
No, the ingredients in its natural form.
In its natural form are inedible. Those are not edible. So what we are consuming is the idea that we are consuming. Try and understand this. The idea is in mask of that food. So it is basically the idea that I am consuming and getting the sensation. The particular,
suppose we can
yeah,
change the object. We can put it, remove the cake and put it the apple. So in
Yes.
that case,
in that case, if it is driven by the obsession, and what could be the obsession? That without apple I'll die, and I get the apple. Then even if I am eating apple, I am eating an idea. That's
no,
what is the
I am
obsession.
eating apple. I am eating apple because I liked it, and I have a thought to eat apple, and then I go to the kitchen and bring the apple and eat it. So in
Yeah.
that case, I create more sensation while eating the apple. Or is
See,
it
if
that
it
idea
is,
is still?
so you need to explain that to yourself, whether that is an obsession of eating an apple or an information that I have an apple and I am hungry. So for eating, the primary driver is the hunger. That must be understood. A thought cannot be driver to the eating. That's the first
Sir,
confusion that we suffer from.
Apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Okay, so are you able to comprehend this, man? For
Because
eating, the
now
thought
the
cannot
hunger
be
comes
the,
into the picture.
yes, hunger is the real thing.
Hunger is the real thing, right?
Now the thought of eating is the reason behind the eating. So it starts with the imagination.
So
There is
that's why
no-
we do the overeating.
Yes,
That's why people do overeating. or we
obviously,
also do.
craving, overeating, all these are idea driven.
No, so in this case, the apple itself as an idea, if I have an apple every day, it will keep the doctor away. If that is the reason why you're eating apple that particular time,
Yes,
then there is a problem.
that
Otherwise, if you eat-
becomes an obsession. Yeah. Right. So this particular image is a bit confusing. We may spend some time more, but because of the paucity of time, we'll move ahead. But I request all of you to go through this in particular and bring your concern reflection tomorrow. Yes, Nandini, please.
is hunger a physiological sensation?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a
So
real
then-
physiological sensation.
And the way to respond to that naturally would be
Eating the palatable
action.
palatable
P1.
food. Yes,
Okay.
it's
I'm a little
not
bit confused
yes,
about
it's
P2, P1, P1,
no,
P2.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. So the example is very effective actually to understand this. The hunger here will bring an understanding that I need food. Hunger is
Right.
basically a discomfort. So
Correct.
it is actually bringing a P3. So P2, hunger is P2. But with hunger, there is an understanding that I need food.
Correct.
And I'll pick up a palatable food.
Okay.
That's a response to P3. P3 to P1.
Mhm.
Are you able to compare?
Natural.
Yeah.
So
Natural
then
response.
that's a natural loop. It's not a
Natural
confusion.
order. Natural order.
That's
Yes.
the natural order.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Thanks.
Because the natural hunger will never bring an obsession. You'll be very much poised in approaching the hunger. Whenever you see an obsession in eating, it's definitely out of an idea, which you have already placed in the mind as a taste,
For sure.
as a targeted taste. So that must be understood, that craving.
When
the
I was
reason-
reflecting on this, because
Yeah.
you've mentioned this on many occasions,
Yeah.
so what came to my mind is basically all recipes are an idea.
Yes. It's
They're
an
all
ongoing
about
research. It's
mixing-
an ongoing traditional research.
Yeah, and it's all mixing of ingredients which are inedible in their original form, making them edible somehow. That's what the taste addiction is all about, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean-
It's a biologically crafted. That's what, like many times you will have an understanding, but even then you will salivate because you are designed to
Yes.
salivate because of that particular design of that particular taste.
Right.
So that salivation is not the end of the story. The research behind that salivation also needs to be understood.
It's not only salivation, because every time you're not salivating, but the
Yeah.
craving is so strong to want that crunch or, you know, that savory or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It happens even with, because even salivation is a physiological response.
Yeah,
And
salivation is
that
very
also doesn't
gross
happen.
that way. It's a very
Ah.
gross response, but there are subtle nuances, subtle ideation, and there is a craving that we sense that may not be as gross as salivation, but there is definitely a subtle kind of salivation that is
There is
pushing you towards that.
anticipated pleasure. There is
Yes,
anticipated pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's what drives us to, you
Yeah.
know, go for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So here, the action, sensation, perceptions are categorized into primary and secondary. You know, if it is a natural flow, then it is a primary action. If it is a reverse flow, that means the action. So action here, what you need to understand, we have three things: ABC, action, sensation, perception. Now, action can be triggered by sensation also, perception also. In a natural flow, it must come from the perception. So if it is coming from the perception, then it is a primary action. If it is coming from the sensation, then it is a secondary action. So that way, there are few categories which you'll find in this particular note. So let's not spend much time on this. This is just a definition of primary and secondary action, sensation, and perception. Now, impacts of conflicts. This is where we are starting the theory of toxemia. So whenever we undergo a conflicting order consistently, whenever we undergo a consistent conflicting order, that time what happens? The action is very effortful. Because of the depleted state of energy, the action requires a lot of effort. It's no more an effortless action that happens in life. So action becomes very effort. It's a hard working life. It's a very, I have to work a lot. These kind of things will come, carry on.
Survival
And
of the fittest.
yeah, all those logics will come. And due to this, or alongside, there is an overloaded sensation. This must be understood. This is very, again, another important aspect. The P2, the sensation, is considered to be the voice of the organism, which actually helps the organism to conserve energy. Now, because of the overwhelmed loop of sensation, the sensory numbness happens. The actual responses of the sensation is missed out in the bargain. So overloaded sensation is the reason for the sensory numbness. We are not sensitive enough. We start losing out the things from our senses. We are so idea driven, the actual senses are not recognized anymore. So it is due to the overloaded sensation. And now, as we see the efforts in action, overload in sensation, we see irrational perceptions. We give justification, excuses to survive. Like we have to give reasons for our actions every time. We have to establish that our actions are perfect. Whatsoever it may be highly irrational, highly unnatural. Then also we are establishing that our actions are exceptional, superior. All those things will come. So we are overloaded with irrational perceptions. So it's a three-way burden. You know, action-wise it is effort. Sensation-wise it is overload. Perception-wise it is irrational. And irrational perception means again overloaded perceptions also. The brain is dented repeatedly. You know, every information, every perception coming from the sensation side will have a dent in the brain. So the brain is dented repeatedly, and we actually have a low-powered mind in the bargain. Now, if we add these three things, you know, efforts in action, overloaded sensation, irrational perception, all these three things requires tremendous amount of energy to operate. Tremendous amount of energy. And that depleted state of energy is nothing but innervation. Those who are aware of the terms in nature cure, they can correlate with this, that this is called innervation or a state of depleted energy. Now, the definition of innervation is a state of depleted energy where the output or the elimination of the body gets compromised. This is very obvious understanding that we may actually try and understand. So here you see, when we talk about a life process, there is an input, then processing, and then there is an output. This is a machinery replication also the similar way. You know, the machines also operate in the same fashion. There is an input, there is a processing, and there is an output. So in organism, the outputs are of two types. In the organism, there are two types of output. One is the internal toxin and other is the external toxin. So output, necessarily we need to understand the output is basically throwing out the toxin. Throwing out the toxin from the system is the output. Now, this is basically the third in order. The first one is input, second one is processing, and third one is output. So first and second is ongoing. The third gets compromised because of the lack of energy. So it's again the budgetary allocation that we took the example in the morning, that you have a limited budget. Suppose you went to the market with 50,000 rupees. Now you had a list of items to purchase. Now, without any planning, you purchased something worth 20,000 rupees. Now you have to curtail the original list. Now the curtailment will happen according to the priority there. Now here the priority comes input, processing and output. Output is the least prior here because input and processing are ongoing. You're not stopping there. So the output will get compromised. Output means throwing out of the toxin. So the expulsion of toxin is compromised. Now, in terms of the toxin expulsion, we also can understand the types of the toxins that we throw out. So there are two types of toxins that we throw out: internal toxin and external toxin. External toxin is the toxin which we actually take in our digestive system and do the digestion and throw the extra portion. That is the external toxin. So the stool is basically the external toxin which we throw out. This is actually called excretion, not elimination. So this is called excretion. Excretion. Now, internal toxin. Now, internal toxin is something that we need to understand. Internal toxins are actually basically three ways we throw out. One is the urine, other is the sweat, and third one is the breathing out. So for elimination is necessarily the internal toxin, means it's a cellular waste that goes to the blood, and blood gets filtered through the kidneys, skin and lungs, through the kidneys, skin and the lungs respectively, urine, sweat and breathing out. So these all are out of the filtration of blood, which are actually elimination of internal toxin. So urine is the primary elimination that happens effectively through the kidneys, and the sweat is out of the skin is the largest eliminating organ. So it has got that filtering pores through which the sweats and perspiration, we throw all the toxins, filtering the blood, and breathe out through the lungs also, we filter the blood. So at the first place, these three things gets compromised. And we don't even come to know about it. There is a little bit alteration in the urine. There is a little bit also alteration in the breathing pattern. So we are adjusting ourselves. We are adjusting ourselves in that. So we keep on compromising in that situation and keep on collecting the toxin. So innervation leading to the reduction in elimination accumulating toxin or toxemia within. Yes, Atanu, please.
Yeah, I mean input, then processing, then the output. So I mean, so you were telling this in the context of food taking, right?
Yeah,
we are taking
all the operations, including food. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, output is also the energy, right? The body energy and all these things. So
it requires energy. It requires energy. It requires energy.
Output.
That's what you're saying.
Suppose I'm taking food, then it's processing in my body. Then the output is only the toxin is the extra garbage, right?
The matter output. Yes.
Yeah.
The matter
I'm
output.
telling that whatever the energy we are consuming, the energy in our body, suppose that our muscles are growing, all these things are also in this output only, right? That is also coming from the output only, right?
No, this is processing. This is under the processing.
Okay.
This is under the output is necessarily the matter being thrown out of the body. This is not the machinery output, the matter output.
Okay, got it.
Right? So matter output means the one is the excretion, other is the elimination. So excretion is the external toxin through the stool, that we throw, and the internal toxins are through these three. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Alex, you want to say something?
So yeah, so how do we correlate this with the deprived state of eating only fruits? Because now we have not understood the whole thing, but I'm just doing it for the sake of, let's say, Ekadashi or Navratri, for example. And the strain that I have to do something that is not a natural process. I mean, let's say I'm eating only fruits.
Okay.
And I'm eating only fruits because it is Ekadashi.
Because it is Ekadasi. Okay.
Or it is Navratri.
It is a P3.
Celebration.
It is an idea that you are operating with. Yes.
So in that process, though I'm eating fruits, but there could be enormous enervation due to resisting the urge, or let's say craving, without understanding the being in the flux. And that could
it's
actually
a two-way energy that is depleting the two-way ideas that is depleting the energy. One is that imposition of Ekadasi. This is one idea that is depleting our energy. And other is that suppression of the craving towards the cooked food that you are suppressing. So both fluxes are operating. Yes.
Without the awareness, you're suppressing it by the just the will. Just the willpower or whatever.
Yes, yes. The primary compromise in the understanding of eating itself, because eating necessarily to be understood in terms of hunger, and we fail to correlate hunger with eating. Okay. That's the primary compromise. That's the primary stoppage of inquiry.
Right. So in this case, what happens is that though you might benefit from one side, because
what kind of benefit? What kind of benefit?
Because the fruits are natural.
It's an interpretation. The benefit is interpretation here.
No, I'm saying because the energy, that way. No, I'm saying because it is an easier digestible food, or if you want to put it that way, very simply, or it is a natural.
Even if it is easier, but with a depleted state of energy, easily digestible apple also could become a burden.
Burden?
Yes.
And also therefore there could be lots of cellular toxic also created in the process of starvation or post-starvation.
Yes. So the benefit is itself as an asopsis term, Yeah. So what benefit that we are targeting? This is absolutely an assumption that we are targeting. Yeah. So innervation leading to the reduction in elimination. This must be understood, because without understanding this, we will not be able to connect the dots of energy depletion and the disease causation, which is the primary reason of disease causation, whatsoever the disease it may be. We are coming up with the stages of disease. Maybe next session we'll start with the stages of disease. Let's see if it happens this session also. Somewhat we can touch upon. But yeah, so innervation leading to the reduction of elimination. Anyone who has any doubt in this understanding of reduction in elimination, the matter elimination is reduced. And elimination, when it is reduced, that means the accumulation of toxin is happening within the body. Yes, Nandini.
So is it that the elimination is reduced because it requires energy to eliminate?
Yes, because of the lack of energy.
Is it? Another twin question. The other question is, and is it that it's too much? Like there's an overwhelm of toxins, and the energy is also depleted, and therefore the elimination is not able to keep up the excess.
Yes. So here, what we need to understand, this is actually a needful question. So whenever there is some toxin that is getting accumulated, suppose it is not very huge toxin that is getting accumulated. Because of some depleted energy state, the elimination is compromised, And any kind of elimination is compromised means there will be toxin that gets accumulated. Right? So the toxemia is there in very minimal intensity. It's not a very high toxic state, but there is an extra amount of toxin that is accumulated within the body. It is flowing in the blood, suppose. Now, any possession seek energy. Any possession seeks energy. So this particular toxin, which is flowing in the blood, also seeks energy. So it will lead the body to further innervation, because this is an extra load on the energy. Try and understand that. So this particular toxemia will lead the body to further innervation, because that toxin, which may be a very small in quantity, but it is an overload on the energy available within the body. And because of that overload, the body actually increases the innervation, increases the depletion of energy. And the moment the innervation is increased, the toxemia is also increased, as we understood that the innervation leading to the reduction of the elimination further. So it becomes another flux within. No matter if it is a small quantity of toxin accumulation, but within no time, it may become very, very massive toxin accumulated within the body. Because small amount of toxin also needs energy, and this is an additional load on the innervation, and additional load of the innervation will bring another load in the toxin, and then the toxin again bring the extra load in the innervation, and that flux. Do you see this, Nandini?
Yes.
Yes. So that way, this becomes another flux within of making the toxicity higher. So we have around 3 minutes left. So now see, whenever there is toxemia, within the body will actually bring a balance, because body is designed naturally perennially to bring back the balance. So whenever there is a toxemia state, the body by itself will bring back the balance, and that bringing back has got an extra special initiative by the body, which is called special elimination, because the normal elimination was compromised and the body started accumulating the toxin, and that accumulation is making the body sicker in terms of the innervation and further increasing of the toxemia. So the way out is already designed within in terms of healing crisis or the special elimination. So body initiates something called healing crisis to get rid of that extra toxin. It's a very heat mechanism. Heat aspect could be understood through the crowd available. In this room, the heat is lesser. In this room, the heat is more. In this, the heat is huge. So that way, the toxicity actually is directly correlated with the heat evolved within. And heat is a form of energy, which leads to that special elimination, and which we also know as fever. Fever is that initiative by the body, which is a vital initiative by the body to get rid of that extra toxin that gets accumulated within the body. Now, more we'll explore when we come back. So let's take a break and a small silence interval, and then we will continue. Please join back with the same link. Thank you.